Hi guys, and welcome back. So the next part we're going to be taking a look at is single note rhythm. What is a single note rhythm? We've already looked at power chords. Now a power chord is, a series of notes that are built up and played together. A single note rhythm is one of those singular notes just being played on their own. So the example that we're going to take a look at later on in the lesson, but what I want to do is I just want to play it for you now so that you know what a single note rhythm is. So here is that riff played with power chords. And now, once again, I'll play it as a single note riff. Now, one of the cool things that you can see straight away is being able to, add some sort of artistic flair to the riff itself. When you're playing power chords, yes, you can add things such as vibrato and stuff like that, but it is obviously a lot more difficult. So if I just play the power chorded riff again, but try and add a little bit of sort of vibe to it. It can be done, but it's obviously a lot harder than doing it as a single note rhythm. The cool thing about playing it as a single note rhythm is that you can add, as I just said, excessive amounts of vibrato, or you can even add things in like pinch harmonics just to make the riff a lot more exciting, whether it's for the listener or whether it's you playing it yourself. So here's obviously the single note rhythm with no vibe to it whatsoever. I mean, it's very difficult for me to do that anyway because it just sounds so bland, so stale. But as soon as you add a little bit of vibe to it, obviously adding vibrato there, which we're going to take a look at in a different lesson. But it's really cool to outline riffs with a lot of melody as a single note rhythm and adding a cool little sort of vibe to it with vibrato or pinch harmonic. When it comes to rhythm, as I've already stated, I like to have a flat guitar pick. But obviously, when it comes to single note rhythms, a flat or a slightly tilted guitar pick, it doesn't really matter, it's personal preference. But once again, I'm looking at using palm muting. And that is probably the one thing that you'll see throughout almost every single lesson is that palm muting is an essential piece to playing metal guitar rhythm. So if I was to not play that with palm muting, it would be completely different. You're looking at a completely different riff now. It sounds different, feels different, but as soon as you palm mute it, becomes more aggressive. My pick is flat, so I'm churning through the strings a little bit harder. When you're playing these sort of things, you need to make sure, once again, economy of motion, that you're not playing it with the elbow, but you're playing it from the wrist. Because regardless of what the riff is with the left hand, it could always go to something faster or slower, and you need to be prepared for that. So having a smaller circle of movement around this area is always gonna, help you out. And then again, if I play it with the elbow, I'm not purposely making that messy. I just physically can't do it. So if you, and then if I condense everything to the small circle that sits around this bridge pickup and the actual bridge itself, the smaller amount that you move, the more consistent you will be. Because if you've got more space that you have to cover, it's going to take you longer to come back and hit that string. Whereas if I'm all contained here, everything is easy to get to and I have no hassle at all. So the example riff, we're looking at a section from a song that I'm going to play later on in one of the lessons. It's based around just the middle part here. So what I'll do is I'll play the riff for you one more time at full speed, then I'll slow it right down, and then we can just take a look at the riff itself. Okay, so the riff itself starts on the 7th fret here. So we're playing predominantly on the A string, but we're bouncing off the E string as well. So the first section is, so you're just playing the open E and then playing the 7th fret on the A string. So you go down to the 5th fret, back up to the 7th fret. So what we have so far is, and now, as we spoke of earlier, creating a cool sort of melodic content, I'm going up a semitone to the 8th fret. So what we'll have is, gives it a really cool Phrygian sort of sound, which I like to write a lot of my stuff in. Back down to the 7th fret. So in total, what we have so far is, so the next part of the riff, we're going to introduce just a slightly different technique, which is a hammer-on. So which goes like this. So the entire riff so far goes. And then we go to the 7th fret again. You repeat the entire riff, but instead of doing a dual hammer-on at the end, you just play the 5th fret on the A string. So the full riff, nice and slow. So just one more time, I'm going to play the riff up to speed so you know what you're working this riff towards. Cool, well there you go. There's a basic overlook on how to construct your own single note rhythms. Once again, take into consideration tension, pick attack. Keep everything contained, whether it's your right or your left hand. Consistency of motion. Don't play from the elbow, play from the wrist. If you start to have tension build up in your right hand or your left hand, because obviously we're playing some relatively stretchy riffs there, then just give yourself 5 minutes. Warm up correctly and stretch off before you play. Cool, so I hope you enjoyed that one on single note rhythms, and let's get on with the next lesson.